right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, attack helicopters, however you might identify. Who are we to say you're not? I'm an attack helicopter, and of course my pronouns are... You must pronounce it correctly, otherwise it's hate speech. All of that being said, enough silliness. My very, very special guest today is the lovely Courtney, who has a great story to tell. I was doing some cyber stalking the other day, just because I do, in terms of checking out who I'm speaking to. It's not that I don't know who you are and all of that kind of stuff. But you have lost some weight, have you not?
Yeah, 41 pounds as of today.
Ooh, let me get rid of this chair, which is in the way of my other chair. Right, that's better. Now you might be fooled that I'm actually sitting where I'm pretending I'm sitting. Right, so 41 pounds.
Yes, I've been waiting to hit that 40-pound milestone. I've been kind of going up and down for the last few weeks. I blame dairy, but I finally got there. So awesome. Hopefully we can keep going down. But yeah, weight loss is not linear. We all know that. So I'm glad to hit that milestone.
Yeah. Very, very proud of you. Great work. Awesome job. Interesting, the dairy thing. I'm not going to disagree remotely. But have you looked into potential mechanisms? Why is it that might be so? What do you think's going on?
Yeah, so I should learn how to pronounce this because I've talked about it many times and I haven't looked. I don't know if it's the casein or casein, however you say it. Something about that is like addictive and it sends things off in your brain that like a drug would. So that's my understanding. I know when I have it, it's hard for me to moderate it. Like I could easily like binge on a whole gallon of heavy cream. It actually tastes sweet to me. Mm-hmm. So for me, even if I have one creamy coffee, I kind of want it the rest of the day. So maybe in the future when I'm at my goal weight, I'll try to like moderate that if I can. But right now it's definitely slowing me down.
Okay. So is your dairy intake, has it been mostly non-milk dairy or is there a fair amount of milk as well?
Typically would just have a little bit of cheese. Like I don't find myself wanting to binge on cheese, but the heavy cream is what gets me.
Okay. So not so much milk.
Yeah. No, once in a while, because my kids have raw milk, I'll have a drink, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're thinking it might be the casomorphine pathway. The addictive substances that you get from there could be valid. Interesting. Anyway, that was an aside. Tell us your story from the beginning. Tell us where you were, what your health was doing, what got you to that point in your health, how you came across carnivore, what made you decide to try it, how has your life changed. Give us the whole rundown, basically. I can stop talking and it's all yours.
All right, buckle up. So I am almost 39. I would say around the age of 13, I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting. Now, mind you, it wasn't like I was huge and my mom's like, you need to go. I was aware that I was a little overweight and it was suggested. So I went and I liked it. So that was my beginning of a wonky yo-yo diet, wonky relationship with food. So I have tried everything. I remember in high school is when like diet pills came out. I want to say, what's the ingredient? I forget what that ingredient was that they ended up making illegal. Ephedrine? No, that's not right.
Not sure.
I forget what it was. That might be a headache medicine. Anywho, so then I did that. I've tried the grapefruit diet. I've tried the Special K cereal diet, Slim Fast. You name it. I've tried it. Never kept anything off. Nothing was sustainable. I did paleo, keto, which was all, I feel like that was headed in a better direction, but I could never stick to anything. Even with those, it would be cheat meals on the weekend, and those turned into cheat weekends and then cheat weeks. Mm-hmm. What I realized was I was always having sweets, even if it was keto sweets. And for me, now hindsight, I'm like, wow, okay, I feel like I'm addicted to those foods and I can't moderate those foods. So I have to abstain. So that's why I feel so great right now that how I found carnivore is I had lost almost all my baby weight from the second baby, doing low carb keto. I was on and off in that community for like 7 years. And then I decided to stop what was working for me and try intuitive eating, which I gained 40 pounds in 4 months. So today I am finally back at that weight that I was before. So it took me almost 10 months to lose those 40 pounds. So how I found carnivore was my husband for like a month was sending me Saladino's TikToks, and we never said a word. After a while, I'm like, so why are you sending me these? Like, should we be doing this? Should I not eat vegetables? Like, that's insane. He's like, I don't know. I got to dig around a little more. So we did a little more research. And at that time, I just felt like garbage. I would wake up and feel lethargic, even after a nice night's sleep. So I was like, I'm going to try anything. You know, my whole past, it was all about weight loss. Never once thought about like the health side of things, or maybe I thought that being thin meant you're healthy. So this time around, it's like, okay, I know I need to lose weight, but right now, like, I don't feel good. Like, I'm not healthy. My skin's a mess. So we saw his stuff, dug around a little bit, not much, kind of just jumped right in, and I loved it. My husband went strict carnivore right away. I was the only, like, at that time, I only was seeing Saladino stuff. So I had fruit, and it lasted about 5 weeks. And I was mindful coming from a low carb space that I was trying to keep my carbs low. So I would maybe have like a cup of blueberries, some honey and maple syrup every now and then. But since I'm a sugar addict, I realized that I still wanted more. Even after I would eat a pound of a ribeye, like, I was full, but my mouth still wanted those sweets. So I did good in those 5 weeks. It still felt good. But after a while, I'm like, okay, I got to ditch the sweets, go strict carnivore. And I've never felt better. I mean, so many health improvements. My skin is cleared drastically. No gas or bloating. The energy is through the roof. I was able to go off of my Zoloft, so I could tell that my mental health was improving even when I was still on them. And yeah, I mean, I feel like you name it, like, it's just, I feel like this diet is honestly a miracle, at least for so many of us. So that's what brings me here today.
Awesome. And you decided that you liked it so much you'd set up a YouTube channel. Tell us about that. Tell us how that came about and how that's going.
Yeah, so I've been sharing on social media for quite a few years now. I used to cook for a living, so I've always shared, my food and my recipes, mainly low carb and keto. And that was just whatever. I mean, people liked it, but it wasn't like a big deal. Once I switched over and I'm like, oh, well, this is how I'm eating now, so I'm going to share it with you guys. People started losing their minds, especially on TikTok. And I wasn't expecting that at all. But just like the more like I dive into this and the better I feel, I'm like, I want to like shake everybody and wake them up and be like, you should give this a shot. It's been life-changing for me. So yeah, I immediately like reactivated my YouTube. I wasn't active on it. I used to do cooking stuff in the past. And I'm like, I need to share this with the world in hopes that it can reach people and help them feel as amazing as I do.
Awesome. And what's your YouTube channel called?
Courtney Luna, I think.
Awesome.
It's Courtney Luna, like on everything else, but yeah, YouTube is just, my full name was available. So
awesome. All right. So, and you might be involved in another channel as well, here and there.
Oh, like being on people's, or do I have another one?
You have an offsider that you have been known to make videos with, yes?
Oh, yeah. So it's still me and Devin. Yeah, we have a podcast called Eat, Meat, and Question Everything, but we both just share them on our own accounts. Right. But yeah, so obviously we've had you as a guest. So yeah, we have mostly, we do have some people that share their stories, but it's mostly like experts in the field of carnivore and keto and just health and wellness in general.
Awesome. Very, very good. All right, well, we'll try and link all of that stuff under the video, of course, so that people can just find it and go and click on it if they haven't already, and subscribe and leave comments and hit the bell icons and all of those things that you should do, absolutely. Let's dig in a little bit to the pushback that you get. People that just lose their mind completely when you mention that you do not consume fruit or vegetables or fiber or plant material to speak of any kind. What kind of pushback do you get from people?
Yeah, and it mostly comes from TikTok. I do get some of these comments on the other platforms, but it's really heavy on TikTok, and they're just not accepting of it. They don't think it's backed by any science. They think it's gonna cause me to have a heart attack, clog my arteries, all those things. And they're upset that I'm sharing this to an app that has children on it, and I'm influencing people with this misinformation. I'm going to cause people to have eating disorders, and they're just very dismissive of like all of us that have had these amazing health benefits, and they just don't want to believe it. And it's frustrating because I feel like it's so political eating this way. I had no idea it would be. And it's so divisive by, the people that go against us. They're just blindly believing everything they're told, and in more ways than one, more than just diet. So they trust their government way too much. And I like to question things. Like I question everything these days, especially in the last couple years. Like, I'm not going to believe anything you tell me. I'm going to go look it up myself.
Good call. It's interesting, this one, about there being so-called no science to underpin the carnivorous lifestyle for a human. There's a couple of things for me that make it interesting. One, there is no science underpinning any form of dietary intervention in humans of any kind. The exact amount of science that exists experimentally supporting the carnivore diet, which is none, that exact same amount of evidence exists supporting a balanced diet, the Western diet, the ADA promoted, best practices for diet, the need for vegetables, the need for fruit, the need for fiber, the need for carbohydrates in your diet, or any of the claims about cholesterol, saturated fat, or carcinogenesis from red meat. Exactly no science exists. This ring-fenced area called human nutrition science is just that. It's a ring-fenced area of ideology, propaganda, smoke and mirrors, spin doctrine, and fear-mongering. I challenge anybody to bring any valid, robust scientific evidence to the table that would prove me wrong on anything I've just said in the last few minutes. Because cause and effect is established using experimental protocols in science. The difficulty with that is when you're talking about human beings, long-term and health outcomes, what that would mean is you would have to get those human beings that would need to be identical in the first place, genetically, phenotypically, and in every other sense. You'd need a large number of them for statistical power. You'd need to split them into two evenly sized cohorts of pairs of twins, lock one twin in one lab, another twin in the other lab, those labs being identical in every respect otherwise, and control one factor and one factor only, or allow one thing to vary experimentally and control everything else, is what I should say. And you'd need to do that for multiple decades, under lock and key and observation 24/7. Good luck. So, you can say there's no science behind the carnivore diet. Fantastic. There's none behind anybody else's idea about diets either. However, there is some actual hardcore science that we can go to that does make sense. Are you aware of some of that stuff?
I guess you'll have to say, because everything I come across, it's never like good enough for them. So anything I've shared, the doctors are quacks, or this, you're cherry picking information. So everything is just dismissed. So I almost try to not even fight that battle because it's a little out of my wheelhouse anyways. But yeah, I would love to hear what you think.
Yeah, no, it's what I do when I'm constructing the argument that says, look, okay, you want to talk about proof, you want to talk about cause and effect proof, science. Well, I've just covered that. There is none. Okay, so you don't have the high ground in that respect. You plant-eating supporter, or you balanced diet supporter, or whatever. You've been fooled if you think that there is some science extant which will support your claim any more than mine about carnivory. So we're on even terms now. However, if you're prepared to look outside of human nutrition science, you will find anthropology. What you will find is, under the correct assertion that Darwinian evolutionary process, genetic drift over eons of time, under the correct assertion that that is a fact and is demonstrable, you would then take that context and apply it to what we find in the collagen, which is a protein that we find in the long bones of human skeletal remains that we find anywhere around the planet of any age, up to well over 100,000 years old. And we look at that collagen and we say, oh, look, nitrogen in the collagen comes in two different isoforms. They're stable over eons, and the makeup of the nitrogen profile in the collagen in those long bones tells us unequivocally, it means without any question or debate, it tells us what that human did eat while it was alive in terms of the balance of plant-based food and animal-based food. It gives us an exact ratio. We know what that person ate. No question. Done deal. Anyway, all collagen derived from long bones of all human remains found anywhere on the planet over about 10,000 years old, before the Agrarian Revolution, they all agree within about 5%. And they all tell us that we ate almost nothing but animal food. Done deal. There was no carbohydrate to speak of to be had. There were, most of that time, the earth was largely glaciated, frozen over. We hunted packs of large animals like, the megafauna. And we scavenged. That's basically how humans survived. No plants at all. So, given that's what we definitely did eat, no question, and given that Darwinian evolutionary process is a fact, that tells us how our genes have developed over the last at least 350,000 years, which is the entire existence of humans on the planet, in our current speciation, our current form. That tells us that those are the genes selected for. That's what's informed the design of our metabolic system, our organ systems, our brain, our society, our language, our opposable thumbs, all of that stuff. Done deal. That is the species appropriate diet.
Yeah, and I agree. And they don't like to believe that. I've seen discussions in my comments about people like defending what I'm doing and that are also carnivore. And that comes up and they're always like, no, we're omnivores, we're not carnivores, blah, blah, blah. We've had Dr. Bill Schindler on. And so he's talked about, all that. And it's always just dismissed. And I'm just confused why we can't agree on that. Like, I thought it was obvious.
Yeah, people can't agree because people at large, even those involved in the science, again, I'm going to use the science, have a predetermined, presupposed position based usually on anything but science. It's based on emotion. It's based on what they desperately want to believe. Any lie repeated with confidence enough times becomes the truth in the minds of the person hearing the lie. And it doesn't really matter if the lie is coming from someone else or if it's coming from within your own self. You will start to believe that, genuinely believe it, and you will actually die on that hill. You will defend that position at any cost in the face of any amount of evidence to the contrary. I mean, you've got people who are so incredibly cognitively dissonant that they will genuinely come on the interwebs and without a hint even of irony or humor, in dead seriousness will say, look, there's no way we could possibly be a carnivore because we don't have sharp, pointy teeth like this. Ah, okay. So, I mean, if you look at cave paintings on the walls, never have I seen paintings of hunting men diving headlong at woolly mammoths with their mouths open. That's not how we did it. Brain, opposable thumb. Oh, I wonder if this sharp, pointy stick will work. Maybe get some guts and string it across a stick and put another pointy stick through. Oh, that works. By the way, we can chuck these rocks and make a lot of noise and scare the animals. We can hunt in huge numbers. We can communicate with each other and use strategy. Maybe we don't need that. Maybe there's no evolutionary pressure that says we should have that. And people just can't seem to put that together in their heads. Anything that would purport to maybe support their idea, they'll grab at it and they'll hang on to it and they'll use that as absolute proof of their position for no other reason that they desperately want to believe their position is correct. Mostly what these people are actually doing is justifying their carbohydrate addiction and saying, well, you must eat carbohydrates cause whatever. I like what you were saying before about the whole idea that people need, I think, and I agree with you, that people do need to put themselves into one of two categories with regard to their intake of carbs. We're talking either you moderate, or if you're not able to do that because you're an addict, then you eliminate them. Tell us a bit more about that. Was it tough for you to apply that, at least at first? How long was it a problem? What strategies do you have to cope with that addictive impulse to eat carbs now?
Yeah, so, I didn't realize this till just recently. I don't know if I just thought everyone battled with that and everyone had a wonky relationship with food. It wasn't really till like a few months ago when I saw, I think it was Serena, mention it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes perfectly sense. Like, there's a reason why I don't drink alcohol either. Like, I can't moderate that. I'm not having a glass, I'll have the bottle. So, and it kind of frustrates me because we've talked about this recently too. Like, we've done some videos on like binge eating and talking about like our different experiences with sugar addiction, and the haters are very dismissive about it. Like, they think you can't possibly be claiming to be addicted to sugar. And it's like, well, if you're not, then you won't understand. And that's great if you're not, because it's horrible to have lived this long battling that. So yeah, I didn't even realize that was my issue for a few months ago. And I wish I would have known sooner, because I would have stopped all things sweet. So I feel like that's what's really triggering. I have, people say like, oh my gosh, I can't stop, craving chocolate. It's like, well, have you removed everything sweet from your diet? Well, I'm having stevia. It's like, well, that's just going to continue your cravings. Like, everything needs to go. If it is consuming your thoughts, if you are trying to moderate any sort of sweets, even if it's a keto treat or fake sugar, like, if you're obsessively thinking about it, it needs to go. And for me, I realized after a few weeks that I had that like food freedom. Like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have a desire to cheat anymore like I would even with keto. You could have a plate of donuts next to me, whereas before I would either eat the whole thing, or maybe I would have one and then I would try not to have the rest, but I would think about it all day long. So now it's like, it's just off the table. And since I don't consume it, my body doesn't want it. I would say maybe once in a while, if I saw like ice cream, I'd be like, oh, well, that would be delicious, but it just floats right by. Like, it's not like I think about it more than once. And I would say for anybody who is having those cravings, it gets better. I feel like after, I want to say like even like a few days, but give it a few weeks. And just make sure you're hydrated and having enough salt and fat. So if I were to be craving something, like sometimes, because my kids do have fruit, when I cut it, sometimes I'm like, oh, that would be really good. But for me, I'm realizing like I want the juice. So I'm like dehydrated, or just having some fat, or sorry, like some salt on my tongue or a bite of butter can get rid of that. But honestly, like it's so rare that I'm going through that, but it just passes by. Like it's not even a big deal. And so if anybody's struggling with that, just know like there is hope. Like you don't have to, go through the mental gymnastics every day of thinking about these sweets. Just give it up and be done with it.
Awesome. So it sounds, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like that one of the practical steps, one of the actual tools, something tangible that someone can grab onto here is when you have that impulse, when you have that instinctual, I want something sweet, it sounds to me like what you've been doing is redirecting that attention to something else.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying let it wash over you. Sure, absolutely. Be in the experience. Understand the thing has no power. But it sounds like you've actually said, okay, right, well, some salt or some butter or walk around the block or do 50 chin-ups or whatever it is. If you can do 50 chin-ups, I can't. It's that redirect. It's that change that attention. Yeah? Or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, no, that is true. And especially in the beginning, because we're so used to getting, your dopamine hits from food, and that's bringing you joy. So definitely find other ways to find that joy, distract yourself. Yeah, like go for a walk, do some push-ups, do anything, find a new hobby. But it will go away and be easy. Or have a bubbly water. Sometimes your mouth just kind of like wants something different and wants that sweet. And even though it's not sweet, it just kind of like changes up maybe what you're used to.
Cool. Yes, it's an interesting one, isn't it? That as a species, I guess, human beings can be both so very strong and resilient, but also so weak. So unable to control our impulses, so reptilian-brained, where we have a thought and we feel like we must comply with that thought. And if we don't comply with that thought goes around and around and around in our head until we cave in and do that thing. It's something I've been through myself. I've experienced it with various different forms of addiction. I have one of those personalities. I've tried many things in my life and got hooked on one or two of them, shall we say. Happy to say I'm off all of that stuff these days. It's the freedom that you get from applying what is ostensibly a form of self-discipline that gives yourself more belief, etc. Do you have some kind of a mantra, some kind of a message that you tell yourself? Is there some kind of words or phrase that you use to kind of get yourself back under control if you feel like you're losing it?
Honestly, for me, I just remember my why. Like maybe I could have a donut right now and be fine and go about my way, but I honestly feel like that would just set me off and would be a spiral to my old behaviors. And I don't want to start over again and start from square one. I mean, I've been dieting for, almost 30 years, and it's been awful. And eating this way, I feel like gives me that food freedom, which I feel like doesn't make sense for a lot of people because they're like, you don't eat anything. Like you're not eating all these foods. How do you have food freedom? That's not a good relationship, because I'm like, well, I'm getting rid of the foods that don't serve me well, and I'm not thinking about them and obsessing over them. So, I mean, this is what works for me, and I don't want to go back to how I felt before. So this is it, unless something isn't working for me, or maybe like we find out new things and we're like, oh, we shouldn't be eating this way. Like I'll always have an open mind. But yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with this, and I don't want to mess up all my hard work, and I don't have a desire to, honestly. Like I don't care to have a cheat night or anything.
Yeah. Tell you what, if we are wrong, there'll be egg all over my face, won't there? Because I've been pretty strong on this, I think. And I think I'm one of the few commentators with some sort of credentialing, some sort of higher level education or whatever, or, you know, a higher level degree or the experience that I've got that actually has been absolutely rock solid and consistent from the beginning in terms of the messaging. I think I can probably think of two or three others who have been in a similar boat, but most people change their messaging to suit what's popular and to suit getting as many views as possible on the YouTubes, I think. And I think that's a real shame. I really do. Because misinformation starts to slip in that way and credibility starts to be broken down. In terms of the kind of the mantra thing I was asking about, I mean, I've got one that kind of works for me, and I think it's also the answer that I would give someone that says to me, well, your diet's very restrictive. So first of all, the first right comment to that is, well, no, I'll tell you what is restrictive, though. Living a life with hugely, vastly compromised health status, which as a function of that actually lasts a lot shorter, die sooner and be sick beforehand, that's pretty restrictive. And here's the mantra part. The reason that I eat and drink is so that I might live. It is not the other way around. Use that if you like. Anybody that's watching, you can have it. Yeah, eating and drinking keeps you alive. They're not the reason for you to live. And frankly, if you think not eating a bunch of poison just because it's available to you is in some way restrictive, and that your only source of enjoyment in life is the food and drink that you eat and drink, I would suggest that you should probably have a pretty solid look at your life.
Yeah, I agree. And I hear that a lot. They're like, because I've made a carnivore cake, and they're like, oh my gosh, just have a slice of cake. How sad that you can't have a slice of cake and enjoy your life. I'm like, how sad that you need to have a slice of cake to enjoy your life. Like, I'm happy with or without a slice of cake. So I think, you know, people, like you said before, they're addicted to these carbs and sugar. And so it makes them feel uncomfortable to maybe think that they're wrong and that they've been lied to and misinformed about nutrition. And so I think they just kind of like clam up and they're like, no, you're horrendous. This is sad. This is awful, to try and make themselves feel better and justify what they're doing.
Yeah. And the slimmer, the more muscular, the more healthy, the more radiant you become as time passes, the more they'll love you.
Well, maybe I would become a little more believable to them because, you know, I still get the comments like, why should I ever take health advice from you? You're obese. And I don't know if I'm obese still. I think when I started, like, I only have like 20 more pounds to lose. But yeah, when I was almost 200 pounds, I could see how they're like, why should we be eating how you're eating? I feel like I'm, at least what I'm seeing, I'm one of the carnivores, if you will, influencers that are kind of sharing the process. I see more people that are already at their goal weight and are fit sharing. So I could see how when someone is very overweight and they're telling you to eat steak and butter every day, you might be like, no, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I'm hoping, you know, as I thin out and get strong, that maybe I will be a little bit more credible to them, or I'll just be more triggering because they'll be fat typing their mean comments with Cheeto dust on their fingers. So I don't
exactly
know.
That. Haters gonna hate. I'm afraid. I mean, I don't think it matters actually how credible you are or how credible you become, really. There are going to be those who will revile, who will demonize you, who will try and cut you down despite their complete inability to do so, because you are actually right, fundamentally, demonstrably correct in what you're saying. And believe it or not, there are one or two people out there on the interwebs that don't think I'm the best thing since sliced bread. It's incredible. I
that.
can't understand it. But they are people who generally want to either feather their own nest by doing some clout chasing. Not that I've got that much clout, frankly, but what they want to do is position themselves in some way as being worth listening to or sensational in some way. Because the other thing I found on the YouTube's thing anyway is that the last thing people actually want is to be educated. What they want is they want to be either entertained or amused in some way, or they actually want to be offended, or a mixture of all of those. That's why I kind of chose the persona that I chose, the play acting that I do when I'm making my videos critiquing people and such. It's like, how can I be as abrasive as possible? How can I be as jarring as possible to people who disagree with me, while at the same time being wildly amusing to those who do agree with me? So that kind of hits that from both angles. Perfect. So that's how I came across that persona. For those that want to know, where's that come from and why do I do that? That's why. In future, I'm probably going to tone that down and stick more around the facts and the science and stuff, and respond less passionately to those that want to critique me and stuff. But in the meantime, it works in a way that just being professional doesn't seem to, for me anyway. What do you think of that?
Yeah, when it's when you're sparking some like controversy, obviously people feel the need to share their opinion. So yeah, especially like when I say, I did this video, it's like, oh, here's a reminder that meat has all you need and plants are trying to kill you. They lost their minds. And then everyone, types in the comments, and that boosts your engagement, and it gets it out. So at least your message is being shared more. But yeah, it makes sense. It's funny that you say people like being offended, because I think that does make sense. I mean, I have people that are self-proclaimed hate followers of mine. Like, they hate me and they follow me because they're like, I can't stop watching. It's like a car crash where you drive by it and you just have to look. Like, they're like, I'm vegan and I watch your stuff, or I'm vegetarian. So there's some people that like can't believe what I'm doing, but they're nice and watch. And there's some people that don't like what I'm doing and they're horrific about it. But yeah, it's interesting to see people's responses to certain videos that might be a little triggering against their beliefs.
Yeah. And then you get funny things happening, like what happened to me in the last few days. There's a bloke that used to attempt very badly, as they always do, to try and troll me on my channel, a bloke that called himself Vegan Jerry. And he was always commenting and making, things that he thought were very clever at the time, I guess, through his brain fog at the time or whatever, and trying to be a troll and et cetera, et cetera. We all thought he was funny, and so we allowed it, basically. Today, he comes on my premiere presentation with a different name and a different account on his YouTube. And he was going like, oh, I used to troll you and I used to be a vegan, and it turns out you were right all along.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So
and to admit it too.
Yep. Yeah. So he never really was a vegan, and he did it wrong. That's what the problem was, of course. Of course it was.
Yes.
And he's a bad person. Now he's on the dark side and all of that. So something complete, something training, something dark side, all of that. Good stuff. Right. Anyway, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have a chinwag, to share some ideas, to get your experience, to learn about your story of getting through the addictive phase. You kicked its ass. I'm impressed. Seriously impressed. You say you've got 20 pounds to go. I'm not sure it's quite that much, frankly, still. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe the camera doesn't necessarily tell it, but I reckon you look great. I reckon you've lost an incredible amount of weight in a really good period of time. The change is patent. Yeah, it's unmistakable. You are your own proof, and that will only continue as time goes by, I'm quite sure. So we're very, very pleased to have you as part of the community, sharing what you're sharing and the way in which you're sharing it. Do stick around. Don't let the haters hate on you too much. They're not going to change any realities or have any impact on any of the actual facts ever, so fine. Remind us once again where to find your social media.
Yeah, so it's Courtney Luna everywhere, and Courtnney Luna here on YouTube.
Right.
So
it's Courtney Luna at everywhere except on YouTube where it's not it's just Courtney Luna. Awesome.
Yeah, you can Google me and find me. There's some amazing articles out there too. If you
there's one or two people commenting on me as well on the interwebs. It's incredible.
Yeah.
People have opinions and they think they're valid for some reason. Whatever, fine. I guess it's all, no exposure is bad exposure, I suppose. Yeah. All right. So, Meat Militia, my soldiers, you have your orders. Go and sub to all of Courtney's stuff and things and watch all her videos and comment underneath the videos for Al Gore and his rhythms. He loves that. And hit the like button and hit the bell icon and all those things that you should do. Play the game. It's all about cross-pollination. Let's support each other. Thanks for your time, Courtney. Appreciate it very much. And we'll see you and Devon next week on your channel, won't we?
Yeah, I think in a couple weeks, we have you on.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Can't wait to chat.
All right. Brilliant. See you then.
Awesome.
Ciao
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.